Here we go. It's FT, the OG crew. Kratz looking great in the new FT polo. Pierzynski in a polo. And Braun. So we are 1 week away from the trade deadline. If you have questions for us during this show and you're watching somewhere, you can ask us those questions in a variety of ways. You can DM us on Instagram. You can send us tweets. And you can join the YouTube live chat, which is the quickest way for me to see your questions, which include answers from Ken Rosenthal today. Okay. I have a theme I want to throw out there for the day before we charge the mound. AJ, you weren't with us yesterday. I've been getting this question a ton on radio and podcast appearances, and we'll ask it to at least two of our guests. One guest is a player. Why would the Tigers trade Erik Skubal?
Because they don't think they can compete in the next year or two, and they can get a lot for him right now. And those players can come in and take over for some of the positions they are in need of. And if they can get a gigantic haul for him, why do you not trade him? If you can get what you got for, like, I saw someone today on Twitter talking about Curtis Granderson, the trade they made for Curtis Granderson where they got Max Scherzer. If you can get a haul like that, you can get a surefire Hall of Famer, then you got to make that trade.
Do you? I mean, don't we all look for number ones? I mean, he's a Cy Young contender. The Tigers have been rebuilding forever, and they have barely spent any money. They're like bottom five-ish in payroll. Isn't this the kind of guy that you keep the next few years, and if anything, you try to extend now or in the offseason? I mean, he's 27. He's 6'3", 240. I know he's had some injury issues in the past, which what pitcher hasn't? I just don't get it. Crochet, I get. The White Sox aren't going to be good for 3+ years. Tigers can make the playoffs next year. Wild card teams can win World Series.
Yeah, but if they get 5+ players that turn out to be big leaguers, what if they get a haul like the Padres or the Nats got from the Padres? What if they get that haul? Which one helps you more? One pitcher or five players, pitchers and players?
It's got to hit though. I just think many of these deals don't. I'm as big on prospects as anyone, right? We got Hot Sheet coming up right after this show if you're watching on YouTube, but I don't know. That's the one that I'm having a hard time with. That's all. Just needed a little therapy.
You know what, though? Honestly, that's more of a off-season trade for me. There's too much that has to go into it. I mean, now listen, could they do it now? But for me, that's a Corbin Burns off-season trade where you go into it as the Tigers. You say, all right, we can get these 5-6 players and we can revamp our roster really quick and make it quicker to where we want to get to. And I think it's hard to make those trades during the year.
Kratz?
Agreed. But nobody's going to deny that the Orioles don't jump up to the number one favorite if they get Erik Skubal. And you go Corbin Burns, Erik Skubal, and Grayson Rodriguez. To me, those are the teams like the Brewers aren't trading for Erik Skubal. Like you're not like that's not finishing out what they need. It's helping, absolutely. But really it's the Orioles and everybody else is in second place, I think. And it's a distant second. That's why I don't think it's going to happen. Because they want too much, and other teams aren't going to give up that much.
Okay. We'll ask plenty of people about this coming up, and I would love thoughts in the chat. And yes, the Tigers are playing pretty inspiring baseball. They've won 7 of 10. They're 6 out of the wild card. I don't think that they're making the playoffs this year, but I don't think they're far away from competing. That's my problem. I think they could be a playoff team next year based on some of the core that they have, some of the money that they should have available to spend, you would think, if they're trying again. I don't know. I'm kind of losing my mind.
Yeah, but they don't spend the way they did when Mike Ilitch was owning it.
But they're on the other end of the spectrum now. I mean, Ilitch, I think, had him at one point in like the definitely top 10, if not top 5 range. And now they're in the bottom 5? What happened?
Yeah, because they're different. It's a kid. How many times have we talked? You've talked about this, Scott. There's a kid owning a team that got the team from his dad, and they don't spend the way the dad did. We've seen it. We see it. You see it. John Fisher, right? Didn't he inherit the team? You see it all over the place. Ilitch is another one, and they inherit these teams, and they just don't want to spend the bottom. They're like, oh, I need to make an extra $25 million this year, and when you have $10 billion in the bank from Little Caesars.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard. So Tigers fans, I feel for you. I'm going to keep fighting for you publicly to keep your boy. Let's go charge the mound. First off, congratulations to the Kansas City Royals. They have officially matched their win total from last year. That is an incredible turnaround. Incredible turnaround. I know, Kratz, give it love for 1 sec, and then we'll get into the beef.
100%. To be able to do that in back-to-back years, not leading up 3-year plan, I love it. And it's a credit to that coaching staff because they stayed exactly who they were, from Q all the way down to Hoover to Willie at third base. Like it's all those guys. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, it's awesome. And Bobby Witt Jr. is the most sizzling player at the plate in baseball right now. Also, great medicine.
And he leads the league in WAR right now, just FYI.
He does. And great medicine right after the home run derby is White Sox pitching. But he is on freaking fire. And now it was Arizona Diamondbacks pitching too. So, AJ, was everything okay here when Bobby gets hit by a sinker tailing in, and then the payback goes to Gabriel Moreno, even though Torey Lovello and company said that they didn't do it on purpose, despite the same pitch, the same velocity, and essentially the same location to one of the better hitters on the Arizona side?
Two things here. See that guy yelling? He don't need to be yelling. I know he's the captain, and but he don't need to be yelling. Dude, watch the pitcher. That one was on purpose, 100% on purpose. You can tell the way Salvi jumped in front of him. That was 100% on purpose. Now, what the Diamondbacks did when they hit Bobby Witt, that wasn't on purpose. Watch the pitcher's reaction. He was mad. He's like, oh, man. Like, you can tell right away. Watch the pitcher and the catcher. When Moreno got hit and Salvador Perez jumped in front of him, he knew exactly what was coming right there. Because as a catcher, when you know a guy's getting hit, you're ready to stop the hitter from getting to the pitcher's mound. The Diamondbacks guy, when he hit Bobby Witt, no. Like, he turned around, he grabs dirt, and he throws dirt. He was pissed. Like, I understand Salvador Perez is mad that Bobby Witt got hit, but it happens. It wasn't his time to get a cycle. But for him to get all mad and then get in Torey Lovello's face, now I will say this. Torey Lovello also pointed at him and, like, called him over, which I didn't think was appropriate either. Like, Torey Lovello should have just talked to the umpire and not involved Salvador Perez. But listen, I mean, Bobby Witt got another opportunity later in the game, and he flew out to right field. We just showed it. So, listen, mistakes happen. You have to pitch Bobby Witt inside. But, I mean, it just was over-escalated because the Royals made it into something, and then Torey Lovello's right. The guy should have been kicked out for hitting Moreno because, I mean, he'll say, oh, it got away from me. It was 100% on purpose.
I don't think the one to Witt was on purpose, but the only thing I would disagree with is Witt's reaction. You know, AJ, when you're hitting, if somebody did it on purpose. I felt like Witt, his first reaction was like, that felt on purpose. Maybe it was just a reaction of getting one inside, and he kind of reacted in the moment. He knew he needed the single, all that stuff. But it felt like that was his reaction. And yeah, Salvi shouldn't have overreacted like that. Even if they were going to go and hit him, the best way to keep it under wraps is to not go and yell at somebody, because now the umpire is on high alert. Jordan Baker's on high alert. Okay, they're pissed, which is exactly why he should have got the Royals pitcher should have gotten thrown out. Schreiber, whatever his name is. Schreiber from the Red Sox. He should have gotten thrown out. He should have gotten thrown out there because I don't see how after Salvi yells at him, you're on high alert. And that pitch, yes, Schreiber turns around kind of afterwards. But I don't think the Diamondbacks are throwing it at Bobby Witt. I mean, listen, he's hot. If you don't want him to hurt you and you want to put a 40 stolen base guy on first base, they're going to walk him. They're not throwing the ball way in. You got to be able to throw in. To me, just ran in and got him.
Yeah, but here's the thing. He should have been ejected. Jordan Baker, if he saw Salvi and he knew what was happening, and again, I go off the catcher's reaction. Listen, I was in a situation where I knew we were going to hit a guy, and I told the pitcher, I go, listen, you hit him, I'll make sure he doesn't get to you. And that was the reaction that Salvador Perez gave. That's why Schreiber kind of turned around, but he also was like, Salvi's not going to let him get to me. He's going to grab him. He's going to stop him. So it's all about the reactions. You can listen, again, I say this all the time. As a guy that was thrown out a lot and hit a lot, I knew when guys were throwing at me on purpose, and I knew when sometimes it got away. Now, sometimes I was just mad and I knew they weren't hitting me on purpose because it hurt? Absolutely. So you kind of glance at them. But listen, the way Bobby was just mad because he wanted to get another bat, and it kind of clipped him on the arm. It wasn't like it was at his head and it wasn't in the ribs. I mean, it clipped him on the arm. So I think it was an overreaction by the Royals. And of course, we all want to see Bobby Witt get a cycle. But then when they hit Moreno, Schreiber should have been ejected. If that's the rules we're going to play by, where, it's the umpire's discretion. If we think he threw at him on purpose, everybody in that stadium knew he was throwing at him. 2 outs, nobody on, big lead. Oh, whack right in the ribs. Come on, that was on purpose.
I watched the interview of Lovello, and he was like, I called Salvi over to hear what I was going to say to Jordan Baker. I've never seen that before. And then he said, he was like, we would never hit Bobby Witt Jr. We think he is the future face of baseball. There's not one chance that would ever happen. That is not what we do. And so he was like, that's why he called Salvi over. But when you start pointing in people's faces, the 50,000 fans in the stands are looking at it like, what's he doing? Why is he yelling at our Salvi?
And that's the thing. If you've got one of the best players in the game right now on a heater and he gets hit by a pitch, I'm not surprised that the other side's going to retaliate instantly. It's not a surprise. It's the perfect scenario for it in a blowout game like that. Let's get to one more topic. The Seattle Mariners fall in a very close game, and Scott Servais, their manager, is not thrilled about it. So let's run some sound first, post-game, from the Mariners manager about a late crushing loss to the Angels for a team that's really got to look behind them and see not only a Houston Astros ball club that caught up to them in 5 seconds, but even potentially a Rangers team that could go on a run and pass them. Here's Servais.
Excuse me?
You've shown a lot of patience with what you've seen. Why tonight?
Because I'm tired of watching it. Stand up for our guys. Believe in them. Some nights, that's not Major League Baseball. We handed them a game.
So you got the Astros and Mariners tied for first. Rangers, 4 games back now? You like that? Just clear cut, simple. Game got away from them late. They lose 3-1, but really also won. To me, that's the number one. It happens so often. The pitching is performing on a night-by-night basis. You can't put yourself in these situations where one knock, and also it didn't matter. They had the bad throw or whatever, but the one knock ended the game in the top of the 9th. Oh, well. I mean, score 3, 4. Give me something.
They can't score. We've been talking about it all year. They're wasting great pitching. And they had a chance early in the year when the Astros were down and the Rangers are still down to run away from this and hide in this division. They haven't done it. And listen, Scott Servais can get as mad as he wants, but he needs to go upstairs and say, hey, man, we need some guys that can hit. And if they don't go out and get that at the trade deadline, they're going to have the same thing happen to them that happened last year. They got a good shot of missing the postseason. And that's going to stink because their starting pitching and their bullpen is as good as it gets, and they need the opportunity to get to the postseason.
Maybe he was calling out the front office. That's just maybe that was his way of, because he has been a player's manager. Maybe he was calling out the front office. Like, this is Major League Baseball. We need to score runs. Somebody go and do something for me.
I like that take. I don't hate that. It's time. I mean, they've got a week to do this. They're on the clock. All right, we'll step aside. We'll take some questions if you're watching right now in the chat for Tommy Pham joining us next on FT. This one's going to fly today.
Okay, Juan Soto, I got to tell you, Todd, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I've seen a lot of stars walk in. He's 25 years old. I've never seen someone as comfortable in his own skin as is Juan Soto. He knows who he is. He knows what he does. The only thing I can think about that is the same, for example, you've seen these guys when a pitcher will throw a strike and he knows that he could have hit it. He'll just point at the guy and say, yeah, you got me. And then he'll put this smirk on his face and the next pitch will go into the upper deck. The only one who I ever saw who acts like that and terrorizes pitcher was Manny Ramirez. And you remember what he would do. He would laugh at you. If you hit him or you struck him out, and then you knew the next time it was going into the, going over the Sitco sign. He's something. He's really something. And the only thing I can think of that is also similar is when Wade Boggs got to the Yankees. Don Mattingly told me that the year he got there, the Yankees went from last in bases on balls to first in a few months because Boggs was in there and everybody watched him. Quite frankly, everybody talking about Soto taking pitches and getting on with walks. Nobody cares because Aaron Judge is behind him. And I think there's a little timing thing that's going on. He would never admit whether anything still hurts, if he's having trouble with the foot. But you know what, as he said to me, I guess last week, he said, I wish this were in the middle of the year because then no one would notice, which you don't if it happens in July. But just think, this is what I think the Yankees are thinking. They are doing this without Aaron Judge, Anthony Rizzo, and Gleyber Torres are not hitting. And last year, when you didn't have Judge hitting, this team didn't win.
What's up, FT fam? We're back, and Tommy Pham is joining us very soon on the show. We'll get to one more topic, I think, if we have a moment. So the Braves signed Whit Merrifield to a major league deal to help with some depth, maybe to fill the spot of Ozzy Albies along with Nacho Alvarez. And AJ, did you see what happened to Whit?
Yeah, he almost broke his finger before he even got onto the field for the Braves. Listen, this is just one of those years for the Braves. And I love this tweet from Dave O'Brien. You might not believe it, but it's true. And then Snicker said you can't make it up. But sometimes you just have years where it just ain't meant to be. And right now, with everything that's happened to the Braves, with Strider going down, Acuna going down, Albies missing time, Sean Murphy missing time, Austin Riley missing time, and the Phillies playing so well, it just seems like it just ain't their year. And listen, as Paul Konerko used to tell Herm Schneider, our trainer in the White Sox, hey, even trainers have bad years, pal.
I don't know. My only thing is, I keep saying this. Maybe I'm, on an island by myself. I think the Braves could do a lot of damage in the playoffs. I think over the next week, they're going to pick up at least 2 position players. And I love their bullpen. It's been one of the better bullpens numbers-wise and stuff-wise. I think it's probably top 3. They've got starters that can shut any team down. And they've got dudes that can get hot and hit 3-run homers like Austin Riley and Matt Olson. So I think they're going to be just as annoying as they were in the past. Sale is a big game performer. We'll see if Lopez can get himself to the playoffs feeling as good as he does now. I don't know, Kratz. I've been kind of tooting the horn for the Braves just because I think there's still a lot of talent around the team.
I think for them to make a run, it's going to look completely different than what it is now. I think the pitching is going to take a little step back with Sale and Ronaldo kind of maybe hitting a little tired spell. But ultimately, this team's battling through all this adversity. And what do we always say? Whoever gets in, the hottest team, makes the deepest run. Because, yes, you do need starting pitching. Yes, you need bullpen. They have all this stuff. This team gets hot. They showed it last year. There's no hotter team. There's no better team 1-9. Yes, I get it. Without Acuna is going to be tougher. But, there's some guys having career worst years. So that means in these next 2 months, most likely, unless I'm completely wrong on all 7 of the guys in their lineup, they're all going to improve, which means they're going to be tough to beat down the stretch here.
Yep. Good call. All right, one more bit of news that
let's not forget. I mean, we didn't even talk about Max Fried's hurt too, and they don't know that he's coming back. I mean, he's got a very strange injury, one I've never heard of. People that have had it, they miss like significant chunks of time, and to have it happen now, that's a significant. So I mean, they have Sale. Lopez is way past his innings. Way past his innings of the past few years. I mean, then who are they going to count on? I mean, Schwellenbach maybe. I mean, so yes, it's great that they still have lineup depth, but at some point you got to have some starting pitching. And I mean, Sale hasn't pitched in a long time either, and I love Chris Sale. But what happens if God forbid something he gets tired? Lopez is already showing signs of tiring out a little bit. They got to hit, and they haven't hit. That's been the big thing for the Braves. They haven't hit, and will they? I don't know.
It could change. But you're right. I mean, the offense has been massively disappointing this year. If Sale's good, he's good, right? It's not like he hasn't gone deep into seasons before. Morton could be effective too. I mean, he can start a playoff game for you.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
But
no, I get what you're saying. They're not a powerhouse.
You count on him this year? You count on Charlie Morton this year to win you a playoff game if you got to win one?
Yeah. Yeah, I could.
Better than other number threes that are out there, I think.
Yeah.
Better than Ranger Suarez?
No.
Well,
we're not talking about.
I'm just saying.
That's
who they're going to have to play
in the league right now.
I mean, that's who they're going to have to play.
Yeah. And hey, I'll give the Dodgers a mention because I wanted to get to that too. They DFA'd James Paxton. So we talked yesterday about Ty France, who cleared out his locker, and now Paxton's gone for the Dodgers. I mean, I think he'll get scooped up to a league minimum deal. Still pitching like a probably back end starter. I was kind of surprised just because he can fill innings.
His last start he was all the way up to, he touched 96, 97, I think, one time. But he was hitting a couple 96s. Everyone was worried about his velocity being down. Somebody has to be able to pick him up for essentially the rest of the season. He might give you 9 starts for the rest of the season. Hello, Brewers. James Paxton on the line.
That's an easy one. I mean, yes.
He started pitching.
What about the Orioles?
It would be one of their moves. The Braves.
Braves
would be
Orioles,
a great ad right there. Yeah. And I can sell them on sale. Hey, dude. Hey, Paxton, I know you've dealt with a ton of injuries over your last 5 to 7 years. So is Chris Sale. How are things working out for him right now? Join the program. Not a bad pitch. I think he'll probably get a ton of phone calls because he already got his money. So if he clears, right, I don't think a team's going to claim him. If he clears, you could trade for him and have the Dodgers eat some of the money, but more likely he just gets cut loose and then someone convinces him to sign on a league minimum deal.
I didn't know the Dodgers had that much starting pitching depth. This was kind of out of the blue for me. I know he's not having like ace number 1 year. He's not the big maple that he was before, but I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be an easy pickup. Yeah, that'll be an easy pickup. Let's get to our guest. First guest of the day here on FT. We're happy to have him back on. It's been a minute. Tommy Pham of the Chicago White Sox joining us right now. Tommy, great to see you, man. How are things going for you right now?
What's up, guys? Things are good, but they're not great. So just trying to work on getting everything great.
I tell you what's great, that hotel room you got right now. Look at that hotel room. I mean, damn, you got that suite upgrade or what?
Nah, not quite, man. I need a little bit more time to get the suites.
I mean, you got a full liquor cabinet behind you, so I don't know what
you got the top shelf.
For sure. Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to Eddie Casson about your hotel room when I see him this weekend.
Oh man, that would be nice. Ed's a good guy though. Hey, Ed takes care of me. Ed does very good over here.
Hey, Tommy, we haven't had you on since you signed. So I know in the offseason you spoke about how, we were trying to go to a contender. And when you joined the White Sox, obviously you wanted to just get back into the game, of course, and get going because it was a late signing. And what was your thought process on how free agency played out and where you ended up here?
Free agency was a mess for me. I don't really know what happened, man. Several teams called. In comparison to the previous offseason, I thought things were going to be different. They were going to be great, but it just didn't work that way. I didn't get my first offer until February 25th, and I thought that was odd because, that's after spring training has started. Several teams called. It looked like we were going to get close, and it just never really materialized with them. I was always kind of like their plan B. So that was an eye opener to me. But yeah, I didn't get my first offer till February 25th. Then the second offer came in days later. Then it just seemed odd that all the offers came in after spring training and they started to roll in one after the other, and they all were close to the same amount. So that was frustrating.
All right, so explain to me this, because you had an unbelievable year. You had a great year last year, right? You went from the Mets, you went to the D-backs, and it wasn't like you didn't perform on the biggest stage. I mean, you raked in the postseason. You were indispensable for the Diamondbacks making a run to the World Series. Did your agent say anything, or what were teams saying? Because it seems like you would have been a guy, clubhouse guy. Everyone was talking about how great you were in the clubhouses, right? The Mets, the Diamondbacks, everyone. I played with you. I know what you're like. I just don't understand how teams wouldn't be. If I was a GM, I'd be like, I want Tommy Pham. He's showing up every day. He's going to teach the young kids the right way to go about it. And I know he can play in the big moments because I just watched it.
Yeah, I'm at a loss for words, man. I really don't. I don't know what was said between closed doors. Me and my agency, we didn't have talks regarding that. It was a lot of frustration on my part, but there's a big misperception, I guess, in the league about me. But people that have played with me or know me, they really know what I'm like. Guys like me here. And I just had a talk with Pedro, like literally 2 days ago, and he said, several managers are calling him about me. I talked to Getz. Getz said that there's teams talking to him about me. So, I think it just goes down to our CBA, man. The way we made things, changed things regarding our CBA, it's kind of incentivize certain things that you see that's going on right now. And it's the owners and the front offices are taking advantage of what we created.
All right, so you're on here now. We were teammates. There's countless times when I was talking about what I saw in 6 weeks of playing with Tommy Pham. You're on here now. What is the team getting? Because you're going to get traded. You're going to get traded to a team that clearly wants to win. What are they getting? What are they getting when they get Tommy Pham? Because they clearly, if you didn't have 7 to 10 big league offers in the offseason, then they clearly don't know Tommy Pham. What are they getting?
I think the best is yet to come, because I didn't have a spring training, so I've kind of had to figure things out that us players figure out in spring training, those 6 weeks. So I still think my best months are ahead of me, but I show up every day. I'm just a pro. I prepare. I don't bother anybody. I give a quality at bat at the plate. Defensively, this is my worst defensive season, the numbers say, but there's a lot that can be improved here as a team regarding our defense. And I just don't really think the metrics reflect what I've been doing defensively. But you know, the numbers say I'm terrible this year. I can be better. And you know, I haven't really been even attempting to steal bases. And that's an element of my game that I haven't even been using here. There's several reasons why. You know, we've been down in a lot of games, and I'm 6 for 3 now, stealing bases. Two of the times, you know, were must goes. So you know, that's just stuff that you charge to the game. But um, I do have that element to my game. I just haven't been doing it here. The situation of the game, or whether whatever reason. But I think the best is still to come.
Tommy, what's it like for you? I mean, do you go into? You said you had talks with Pedro. You said you had talks with Getz. Like, what's it like for you? Because you want to win. Again, I played with you when you first came up, and then Kratz played with you after that. Like, you want to win games. You've been on teams that have won, been to the playoffs, made deep runs. So I know that deep down you want to win. So what's it like to you? Do you go to Pedro and Getz and say, listen, man, I know, but I'm getting traded. But do they just say, hey, you got some say, you want to go here, you want to go there? And then what do you say to these guys every day? Because someone that goes through it as a White Sox fan, man, it's tough. It's tough for me, and I'm not even out there.
Yeah, it's tough for the fans right now. I understand that. And the fans in this, you know, for this team, the Chicago White Sox, they're so passionate. I feel it. I see it. It's frustrating as a player not to be able to, you know, give them what they want. Um, you know, as far as say, you know, I have contractually, I have very little say in where I go. Um, that's just the nature of the game. And Pedro respects me so much. You know, we have good communication with everything. And you know, I respect Pedro for that. Getz is doing his best. Him and Barfield are doing their best to try to right this ship. And it's it's hard to see it, but this organization is not far off, man. I know you look at the record. We have maybe 27 wins, 70 something losses, and you're like, man, this guy's crazy. But there's some crazy stat out there where, you know, maybe 30 of our losses. You know, I joined the team when we were 3-22, so I didn't see the first 25 games, but a lot of our losses, you know, we have been in the games. You know, I think that's the frustrating part, because you guys aren't seeing this. You know, we're in a lot of games, just like last night. You know, where it's actually harder for me this year offensively than it's ever been in my career, because we're in every game, or most games I should say. You know, you get 3 at bats, and you know, my 4th at bat, I'm always facing a leverage arm, whether it's that 8th or 9th inning guy. You know, and that's just not common. You know, you might see those guys once or twice a series, but we're seeing them every day. So you know, it's gonna prepare me for something that's yet to come. It's gonna make me better, because you know, the more you see him, the more familiarity you get. But that's not common. It's not common to see, you know, an 8th or 9th inning guy every game. And it makes those guys, you don't make a living off of them. You know, you don't make your money getting hits off of leverage arms. There's a reason why they're good. They're paid the big bucks. Um, so that's not normal. And this year it's become a normal here, because we're in every game. We just can't finish them.
Hey, Tommy, listen, that's like I told you, someone that watches every game, trust me, I see it. Don't be like no one sees it. Dude, I see it. I see it. I'm fighting there with you. I'm sitting there watching these games. I watched a game last night, and I was like, all right, Tommy's going to be in a good mood. He went deep. You know, they're going to win this game. And then it's like some fluke ass thing
Yeah,
happens
man.
all the time, and you're just like, how is this possible, right? But listen, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel it, and I can't imagine what you're going through.
Yeah, it's gonna get better, man. We're this organization is not far off. It's a very young team from the pitching side. You grab some bullpen arms, and a lot of things could change. But it's also an opportunity. I tell a lot of guys, this is an opportunity for you to showcase that you belong at this level. A few years ago, it really wasn't like this, and today, the game has changed. The big leagues is now, for the most part, it can be an opportunity for a lot of guys who might not have the credentials like we had back in the days in AAA, or in the minor leagues, I should say. When we were getting promoted, we had a slightly better resume than the guys today, but this is their opportunity to showcase that they belong here. But they're getting a chance sooner, but their window is also a little smaller. So, um, it, there's pros and cons to this today.
Hope for fans is not in Chris Getz or in Pedro Grifol. It's in the players. And you see these dudes day in and day out, and you always talk about work ethic. I talk about you with work ethic. So many people do. Who are guys on this team that fans should be like, yeah, like this dude's work ethic, like this is gonna be something. Obviously, you never know who's gonna pan out and who's not, but who's working in that, and that fans should get behind in that clubhouse.
I really like Robert, man. I'm a big fan of Robert just from his skill set and his routine. He has a very diligent hitting routine that, I mean, day in and day out, he's in there. He's very studious of his routine, and part of being consistent is having a routine day in and day out, and he has that. Um, and you factor a guy like him with his ability. I really think offensively, just plate discipline, which I don't. To be honest with you, I don't know if that's something you could develop in the big leagues. Um, but I mean, his skill set's off the charts, and he's not a guy who just says, "Oh, okay, I have this ability," and he's a guy with that ability that works. So you could get behind him. There's several guys on this team, man. This is a team that works. I mean, when you have our record, you can't just be sitting around. That's just the truth. You imagine being in a locker room full of guys who are just sitting around on their ass, on their behinds, and we're losing every day. And most of these guys have options, so that's just not allowed. And it's a young team. You know, I'm the highest tenured player on the team now that Maldy's gone, and it guys seeing me work the way I work, and having the time that they have. I mean, it's not going to happen.
True, Tommy. Listen, I obviously respect you and everything you've done. But before we let you go, before you go to Arlington and win the game tonight, we'll get to watch Crochet Deal tonight. All right, I got to say this, and I've told people this story. I got to say thank you for what you did for my son. When I talked to you, you were with the Mets. You have a very specific eye thing that my son ended up having. And what you did, you're the national spokesperson for keratoconus, and most people don't even know what that is. But thank you for what you did for my son. You recommended a doctor and out in LA that went in and did a surgery on him that changed his life, not only in baseball, but changed his life in general. So to me, listen, you always be special to me and my family, and we want nothing but the best for you. And, if you want to speak about it, you can, but if not, I just want to say for me and my family, thank you for what you did for my son.
Anytime, man. If you need anything, let me know. Last year and this year, I'm playing with these new lenses that I'm really the guinea pig for all this, and the technology for these contact lenses for keratoconic eyes is only getting better. I really wish I was younger, because it's 10 years from now or 5 years from now, it's only going to be even better. So there's a lot to be optimistic about, man. And surprisingly, actually, there's a lot of players. They're all pitchers, though. I'm finding out there's a lot of guys in the big leagues with keratoconus, but they're all pitchers. So it's a little bit easier to throw a baseball than to hit a baseball when you have keratoconus.
Well, it's inspirational. Yeah, it stands out. I know it means a lot to AJ and obviously to anyone watching here. So thanks for sharing about that, of course. And Tommy, great to have you on, man. All right. Things are going to be different for you soon. So we appreciate the time during this time period, and we'll catch you hopefully in a few weeks in a different scenario.
Appreciate you guys. Have a nice day.
You too. Tommy Pham with us on FT. Be right back. That was awesome. FT fam. We're back. It's Kratz. It's AJ. It's Braun. And we do want to shout out our sponsor today, AG1. Their in-house team of doctors and scientists and researchers with third-party experts on studies that help to validate the benefits of AG1 stand out to us. And that gives you one less thing that you have to research and worry about. And 97% of people in a research study felt more energy after 30 days of drinking AG1. Kratz, you look very alert and well rested. You might have had a little AG1 to drink this morning already.
It's the game's easy. I actually missed my AG1 this morning. Busy morning this morning. I missed a lot of things, but yeah, I notice a difference when I don't have it. Like, it's almost like, I know this is weird. It's probably not medically sound, but I yawn more in the mornings that I don't have my AG1 by 10 o'clock. Like, it sounds so dumb, but it's like something's just a tick off when I don't have it, because I've been consistently taking it.
I like that. I think, we need more AG1 for Kratz so that he doesn't yawn. That would be
or I just need to take what I have.
Yeah, or that. They're constantly putting their formula to the test. It's trusted by experts and medical professionals, and it's backed by multiple research studies. So you can see it on the bottom of the screen right now, or if you're listening to the pod, take ownership of your health. Visit drinkag1.com/foul, or you can hit that QR code. We'll put that QR code up a few more times during the show here, but it's what we recommend here to support whole body health. And you can start your journey with AG1 by getting a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/foul. Got to go to drinkag1.com/FOUL. We will be right back on FT. And also, we're going to mix in some of your questions during the breaks here. I'm collecting them right now. Trade questions. And Ken Rosenthal coming very soon. Spreading rumors is kind of facts this time, AJ. The Cubs are calling it for 2024. They will not be adding rental players, and of course, they essentially will be selling. It's not a team that is full of short-term assets, but there will be some, and that was essentially confirmed by President of Baseball Operations Jed Hoyer in the past 24 hours. Patrick Mooney from The Athletic and part of the FT fam, host of Northside Territory, along with Sahadev Sharma, posting this story with Ken and with Will Salmon. Your thoughts?
First of all, I had a really long talk with Patrick Mooney when I was in Wrigley on Saturday, and He's great. If you don't know him and you're a Cub fan, then I don't know what's wrong with you. You're probably not paying much to baseball, so therefore you're a Cub fan. Sorry. But yeah, he pretty much echoed this to me.
I feel like you were like telling yourself, damn it, I had to get it in. Couldn't resist the line.
No, but listen, he pretty much told me this on Saturday when I talked to him, that he's like, they don't think they can make a run. They're too far behind. They have too many injuries. But then he also said, I don't really know who they can move. Maybe Tyon. Bellinger's hurt, so they don't think they can move him. And a lot of their contracts are kind of locked into long-term deals with like Ian Happ has a no trade, Dansby Swanson, nobody's going to want. They need a catcher. Where are they going to find it? Where are they going to find a catcher? It's going to be it's going to be actually a fascinating week or so in Chicago with the trade deadline. On the Cubs side, who can they move? And then on the White Sox side, who all do they move and which ones do they decide to keep? It's going to be great.
I mean, I have names. They're not the world's biggest names, but Drew Smiley, Hector Neris, Kyle Hendricks, maybe Patrick Wisdom for depth.
All right, Neris, yes, Smiley, okay, but I mean, Kyle Hendricks, he hasn't pitched great this year. I mean, he can give you some innings, but he hasn't done anything really to deserve to go. I mean, yeah, he'll give you some innings, but he's really struggled this year. Neris has done it before, I guess. Smiley could be a bullpen weapon for you, but it's not a great list of names.
Are we still presenting Ken with some trade things, or is that not happening now today?
Trade ideas.
Well,
Dan O'Dowd too. I think we're just gonna hit.
I'm sorry, Dan.
Yes.
I knew Ken was coming, and I meant Dan.
Yes,
because I have some. I have a Cubs, but I'm also a believer that the Cubs at some point should spend some money. So that's where that trade idea comes in. But anyway. I'm in. So write it down. And yep. I know fans in the chat right now are sending me questions for Ken. We're stepping aside. Ken Rosenthal, FT Senior Insider, is going to give us his best 15 minutes to answer questions. And he threw some articles out there in the past 24 hours that we want to get to as well. All right, FT fam, we're staying here for 2 minutes, and then Ken will join us when we get back on all the national TVs as well. So Steven brought up when we were bringing up the James Paxton DFA topic that the contract says his next start gets him a $1 million bump. I forgot about all the incentives in there. So that makes some sense, although it's not usually a team like the Dodgers that does that, but they call up River Ryan. He looked great yesterday, by the way, and he was hurt, so he's not going to have innings restrictions. Not a bad guy to have as part of the pitching mix now. So I get it.
Is $1 million worth it to the Dodgers? I mean, the Dodgers.
I'm saying they didn't have a spot for him to start.
True, but the Dodgers are paying. The owners of the Dodgers, Guggenheim, are sponsoring their trip to Japan next year. So the Dodgers are being sponsored by themselves in Japan against the Cubs. So they have plenty of money.
I think it would be funny if they would have been like, it's the series in Tokyo sponsored by the Dodgers.
Yeah, why not? I mean, that's essentially what they're doing. Like, hey, they're going to play, the Mets are playing in the Subway Series sponsored by the New York Mets. Like, that's essentially what they're doing. But I still, even if River Ryan is a piece in this rotation, I still don't see how you can lose somebody who's actually giving you innings, even for $1 million.
I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, he'll get scooped up somewhere. I see all the questions coming in for Ken. I've also been going back and forth with Steven in the chat about the Tigers. I know they're playing good ball, but Steven, I think they're going to sell. I'm the one backing the Tigers, I think, more than most people, saying you don't trade long-term assets right now. But as long as Jack Flaherty's doing okay.
But who do they have? Jack Flaherty's going to be dope. But other than that, they're not trading Riley Green, right?
Some relievers.
They're not. Colt Keith, maybe, but some of the relievers, but I mean, those aren't. Listen, relievers are like, I mean, other than the elite closers, the reliever pool is so up and down. Like teams are like, I can make anybody a reliever. Like look at the Mariners, look at the Padres for years. They're like, Oh, the Rays. Oh, you have a good slider, Matt Whistler? You're going to throw it 99% of the time until you blow out, and then we'll find the next guy.
Yeah, some relievers. There's a decent list of names on their list. We don't have time because we're coming back, and Mark Hanna. So all the questions coming in hot for Ken Rosenthal in 10 seconds. Let's do this. It's the Inside Scoop. It is the big week. FT Senior Insider Ken Rosenthal with us right now. What are you doing?
That's cute. That's cute. They match.
Oh, they match. They match.
You guys called each other. That's so cute. Oh, brothers.
I love that. So maybe we'll ask AJ for all the trade questions. No, anyway, there's a great article put out by Ken this morning in The Athletic about 6 particular players and what should be done with them. So, Ken, do you want to pick a player or two? And actually, you know what? I want to start with Skubal just because I feel like that's the theme of the day for me. I've been backing the fact that I don't think the Tigers should be doing this to their fan base if they think this is a healthy number 1 starter. What did you write about, and what do you think?
I agree with you, Scott, and that's what I wrote. And I get that Tarik Skubal in this market that is starved for starting pitching could bring you a great deal. But my goodness, you're the Detroit Tigers. You're essentially a mid-market team. You're starting to play better. You, not so long ago, under the late owner, Mike Ilitch, carried top 5 payrolls. Now, you're not going to sign Skubal to an extension. He's represented by Scott Braun, and we all know how that goes. But here's a guy that in the next 2 years that you have him under control, you can reasonably envision making the playoffs with. And that should be the goal. This is a team that's had a lot of losing seasons in a row, and let's go. It's time for them to go forward. Now, you can make the case that if they could get enough, say, from the Orioles in terms of position players, hitters that they need, that they could still go forward in a big way. But, man, you have the guy who is the leading candidate for the American League Cy Young Award, who some believe should have started the All-Star game, and you're going to trade him with 2 years of control left. That, to me, is just a give-up type move, and it's not one the Tigers should be making.
Is he too valuable? Is he so valuable that it doesn't make it possible? Or is there a scenario where it could happen?
I would say he's too valuable, and he's too good to trade for major league ready position players who might be really good. And you're not getting Jackson Holliday for Tarik Skubal, okay? 2 more years of Skubal, 6 more of Jackson Holliday, a position player who is more reliable in terms of his physical health. Pitchers get hurt more frequently than position players. So that's not happening. So you're not getting that. You might get something good from the Orioles. Maybe you get some of their second-tier guys or even second-tier guys that other teams would consider first-tier. But to me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I know there's going to be a ton of speculation in the next week, and who knows? I've been wrong before. Maybe they do it. But in my opinion, that's not something that they should do. Trade Jack Flaherty? Yes, of course. Potential free agent. Trade Mark Hanna? Absolutely. But trading a guy like this, who is the leader of your staff, who can vault you in a weak division to perhaps a division title in the next 2 years, or perhaps just a postseason berth, I don't know why you would do that.
First of all, the AL Central says they're not weak anymore, Ken, but that's besides the point. Is this a trade that needs to happen in the offseason? Because I said earlier, we talked about this, like usually these big trades, they don't happen at the trade deadline. They happen in the offseason or right when the season, the Dylan Cease right before the season's about to start, because they have more time to sit down at the winter meetings and they have more time to assess farm system with their scouts and all that. So is this a trade that could happen in the offseason, not mainly this season?
Well, AJ, you make a good point. This is not the only window to trade Tarik Skubal, just as it's not the only window for the White Sox to trade Crochet or Luis Robert Jr. Now, trades are somewhat more common in the offseason simply because rosters are more flexible. If you're acquiring position players, you can do things and not disrupt your current team. But at the same time, I'm not sure they should trade him in the offseason either for all the reasons I just stated. This is a guy to build around. It's the rarest of things. Justin Steele is in the same category. How often now do we talk about the lack of ace-type pitchers in the game today? How difficult they are to develop, how difficult they are to acquire, how difficult they are to retain. Well, you've got one. Keep him. And I know there's a physical risk here. Skubal's had a Tommy John in 2017. He had flexor tendon surgery in 22. There's always going to be risk. But my gosh, you've got a guy who every fifth day gives you a really good chance to win. That's a heck of a starting point for any team.
All right, you wrote an article about Mason Miller, and it felt like you said you thought maybe they would deal him. I think it's the opposite.
That's not what I said.
Okay. All right, I'm putting words in your mouth.
Let me clarify what I said. And the gist of the article was my recommendations of whether these guys should be traded or not be traded. My recommendation for the A's was to trade Mason Miller, but they're feeling, and I started this section off by saying that they don't want to do it. They're signaling to clubs that they don't want to do it, and their rationale is, hey, we're tired of losing. We've got a team now that we're building towards something. Some of our position players are starting to hit. They're 10-6 in July. I know it's a small sample, but they're playing better, and they're starting to see some signs of encouragement. And their feeling is, while yes, Mason Miller is a reliever, while yes, he missed almost 4 months last season, they want to go forward. And by trading Mason Miller for prospects or whatever they might get, they don't believe that they would necessarily be doing that. Now, I disagree. I believe you trade Mason Miller for all the reasons I just said. He's a closer on a bad team. He is a guy with an injury history. His value will never be higher than it is right now, I would imagine not. And this way, while there is some problem in trading him, obviously you're trading this guy, there is a greater risk in keeping him. And they have needs in their rotation. If they could get a top pitching prospect for him, and I believe that they could in this market, teams are always desperate for relievers, top relievers. Top relievers always bring good returns. In that event, I would do it. I don't expect that they're going to do it.
Ken, while you were hitting the party scene in Arlington, I was out there grinding, talking to sources, talking to people. Someone recently told me that they believe that the Rangers are going to sell. What are your thoughts on it? He thinks they're going to sell everyone because they just cannot wait for DeGrom, Molly, Rocker, Young, Scherzer to come back and get enough games in to make a run. So what are your thoughts there?
I agree with that. They are going to sell, in my opinion. And I wrote that as much today by basically saying if they're not considering selling, they ought to be, something like that. And the topic of the person I wrote about, well, it was Nathan Eovaldi. And Nathan Eovaldi would be the kind of starting pitcher who every contender would want to have because of his postseason record. This is a guy who has done it in October. Now, getting back to the team itself, for whatever reason, and it's always hard to figure these things out, this team, it just does not seem to be their year. You could say the same thing mostly because of injuries with the Braves, but the Rangers have not played like they played last year. They certainly have not hit like they did last year. Their pitching actually has been pretty good. So if they do decide to sell, they will be a very interesting team, perhaps even the team that kind of controls this deadline along with the White Sox. They've got two relievers on expiring contracts who are really good. Kirby Yates, All-Star, David Robertson as well. They've got Eovaldi, who has a $20 million vesting player option, but I don't expect that to get in the way of anything. He likely, if he pitches well and is healthy, would simply become a free agent and decline that option. They've got John Gray under control for one more year at $13 million. They can move him, maybe free up some money to sign Eovaldi back as a free agent. He is the one guy that might kind of do something like that. He's close with Chris Young. He's from Texas. He, I don't think, would be opposed to coming back if he is traded. And then you have some position players, too, that you could at least dangle. Guys who aren't necessarily having great years. Nathaniel Lowe, Leody Taveras, on and on. There is a good list of players that they could move and retool quickly to add to the young talent that they have, and then come back next year with Semien, Seager, maybe DeGrom and Molly, and some others, and they'd be in pretty good shape.
What kind of help would it give the Blue Jays in 2025 if they were able to trade Vladdy to a trade market that is starving for position players that are actually hitting, not guys that could hit?
Eric, I'm with you. And I've been saying that they should trade him. He was one of those in that column that I said should go. And I'm not buying this idea that the Blue Jays seem to be perpetuating that, yeah, we'll come back in 25 and we'll be really good. Why would they think that? They've massively underachieved this year. With this group, this group of players, they're 0-6 in the postseason in this decade. They haven't won a postseason game. So what more do we need to see? Their farm system's not all that good. They, like the Rangers, could retool and do it pretty quickly. And yeah, Vladdy is a guy, of course, you'd want on your team, but they haven't signed Vladdy. He's a guy that has not agreed to an extension. He has one more year after this one. So if you keep him and Bichette and Bassett and some of the other guys who are under control through 25, chances are at least Guerrero and Bichette are going to walk. And then where are you? Just accepting draft picks in return? And are you going to win the World Series next year when you're playing in the rugged AL East? I just don't buy this logic at all. This is a guy that, as you said, Erik, could bring you a ton back. And then you kind of accelerate your building or your retooling, I guess you would call it, in that situation.
Ken, we got some fan questions, and one of the fans is a White Sox fan, and his name is Daniel, and I don't know if you think this is as crazy an idea as I do, but he says, not saying it's likely, but could a team trade for Crochet, use him as a reliever or starter, and then flip him again in the offseason when he goes back to salary arbitration? And I'm thinking no, because if you're going to give up the package it's going to take to get him, you're going to want to keep him. But could that possibly happen?
AJ, anything is possible, but to me, if you're trading for Garrett Crochet, you're trading for him knowing that in 24 you might not have him as a full-time starter, but that you would in 25 and 26, because he's going to be built up each year even a little bit more, well more than he is this year. So I don't know why a team would do that, and you make a good point there, AJ. You're going to give up a ton for him. You probably won't get the same amount back because now he's getting traded when he is eligible for 3 pennant races. In the offseason, there'd only be 2 left. So he wouldn't have the same value then. In my opinion, if you get him, you keep him.
All right. Now we're going to go to the Yankees because the Yankees feel like they're always great combo. The question is from Rakia, asked, would you trade Nestor Cortez for an infielder at the trade deadline like Donovan from the Cardinals?
It's an interesting thought. I don't know that the Cardinals would do that. Brendan Donovan's a pretty good player. He's got more control, if I'm not mistaken, than Nestor Cortez Jr. does. I don't know that off the top of my head, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But to me, the Yankees most likely would prefer to trade prospects for that infielder that we're discussing, keep Cortez in their rotation. Their rotation is really good, but it's not infallible, and I hate trading depth from my rotation. It's a difficult thing to do. You're always one injury away from a problem. I know Clark Schmidt is coming back, and that's something that could maybe help them in the bullpen. So in my view, they should keep their pitching intact. It's been a strength of the team, and seek to augment their roster in other ways.
All right, Ken, I think we have time for 2 more. Here's one on the Guardians from Brent on Twitter. With the understanding that Cleveland is generally tight-lipped around the deadline, are there any specific names you can confirm the Guardians are attached to at the moment? And I'll add to this. What do you think goes on with Cleveland right now? Starting pitching for sure, just to help them get through the season, right?
Yes, and that's the main thing. And if I knew names, I'd be putting them out there and writing them. Obviously, a team like Cleveland is looking at every starting pitcher available. Whether they do something or not is something that remains to be seen. This is a team that generally is conservative. Now, I say that knowing that in the past, when they've had a chance, they've gone for it. Edwin Encarnacion, they signed him as a free agent. Josh Donaldson, they traded for in August one year. They are not afraid to do things, but they are one of the teams that has had financial issues with its regional sports network, and they didn't do much in the offseason for that reason. So, obviously, clearly, they need more starting pitching. Ideally, 2 more, honestly. But I don't know that they'll be able to do that. They should go for 1 more. I would expect that they'd be in the rental market. And who are we talking about? Kikuchi and Flaherty, those types. Fedde would be good. He's got another year of control. Maybe that's who they target. I'm not sure exactly which players they're coveting most, but we know the names, or at least we think we know the names that are out there. There's always a chance of a surprise. We'll just have to see what they do. But clearly, they're like the Brewers. The Brewers and them, they need starters to get through the season, Scott, just as you said.
And Ken, my last one from me is reading the article, I forgot to mention this, about Mason Miller and seeing the Jackson Merrill name thrown out there. Not that it was a current conversation, but you reported that there was an ask there to make a 1-for-1.
Well, that's the kind of player that they would want back from Mason Miller. And this was, I guess, before Jackson Merrill really took off. But you can understand the A's wanting a comparable guy. Mason Miller has 5 years left. You're going to have him for a long time. And you would want a young position player or pitcher with the similar amount of control and talent. This is a guy who can make a huge, huge difference in a pennant race and in a postseason. So, yes, they did ask for Jackson Merrill at 1.4 Mason Miller. And I use that example, Scott, to show the kind of talent that they would be looking for. That kind of talent or multiple players who would add up perhaps to that kind of talent.
Ken, before we let you go, I have to ask this because people were, first of all, you saw Oakland is going to fire 50% of their staff, which is about what you thought. But the funny part to me is if you go on the 25 schedule when it was released, it doesn't say Sacramento. It just says ATH. So are they moving to Athens? Because I had fans come up to me and say, I looked at the schedule and it all says ATH. So is it for sure they're going to be in Sacramento?
Well, I would imagine, AJ, that's for athletics. But then the question would become, if it's Athens, and we're just kidding around here, folks, Athens, Georgia, Athens, Greece, Athens, Ohio, maybe somewhere off the face of the earth entirely. No, I don't expect that's going to happen. They'll be in Sacramento, and they'll be sweating a lot in Sacramento in the summer.
Yeah.
But why didn't they put SAC then? Why didn't they put SAC?
I don't know. I don't have an answer there.
I kind of know. So I mean, I've at least read about it. So we'll talk about it next seg. Let's let Ken get back to.
They're not going to be identified by a city. Is that what it is?
Yeah. They're not going to, because it's not permanent. That was part of negotiations, apparently, that they were like, yeah, we're not giving you that because we're leaving. So we're not going to attach ourselves to a city that's a temporary home. It's weird. We're going to hit the employee cuts a little bit coming up next here, but Ken, appreciate the time. We'll catch you on Fair Territory on Thursday.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And you can see that show live right on the Foul Territory YouTube channel, 12:30 Eastern time. Get ready with your questions. Load them up. It will be very, very heavy grilling Ken on Thursday with Alana and Ken. We'll be right back on FT, on Valley Sports, and wherever you're watching.
You just hate to see this, and it seems like it's every day in baseball, right? Julio Rodriguez slams into the wall, hurts his ankle. X-rays were negative, and that's good. It seems like he might be okay, but he's going for an MRI. You just never know. There's the play right there. You can see his left foot got caught in the wall. Julio is obviously a huge part of what they do offensively, and what they do offensively is not much. This is a team that incredibly ranks 28th in the majors in runs scored. 28th. Ahead of only the Marlins and White Sox, two of the worst teams we've seen in, I would say, some time. The White Sox in particular. So after a 7-19 start, that's incredible. One of the more incredible developments of this season. Certain contenders that, in my opinion, are in a near desperate position with regard to their rotation. Teams that almost desperately need a starter. I'm talking about Baltimore. I'm talking about Boston, Cleveland for sure, Houston, and in the National League, Milwaukee, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the San Diego Padres. That is a list of 7 teams that I believe urgently need a starter. There are other teams as well that could use a starter. So if you're the Blue Jays, I know you're thinking about 2025 and how great you're going to be then. But you know what? The Blue Jays should be open to everything possible that they can consider at this deadline. And trading Bassett would be something that might be advantageous to them. I know their rotation is the strength of the team. And obviously, if you're going to compete next year, you want to keep that group intact. But Bassett is earning the rest of his $22 million salary this season. So he's owed about a third of that right now. And then he's going to be owed $22 million next season. Teams will be interested in him. Teams will want that kind of veteran starter. And if you're the Blue Jays, in my view, again, you have to look at anything and everything.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
The A's are saying bye to a lot of valuable employees. So AJ was alluding to this earlier. Susan Slusser is all over the report. Looks like about half the staff is going to be let go by the end of the season. Half the staff. Now, I think that number will increase as we get closer to Sacramento time, and then, of course, eventually to Vegas, where they probably will cut loose most people involved with the operation. They're not going to pay to move them. You know that. Relocation fee? Oh, hell no. Nah. They ain't doing that. They didn't even want to pay, minor leaguers during the pandemic. According to sources, the team has informed as many as 50% of their non-baseball ops staff. They will be out of work starting on the 31st of October. Ticket services, finance, stadium ops, marketing, sales, legal, community relations, and others, especially affected by the change. Awful, awful part of how relocation works in our sport, because you might be very good and very specialized at a particular job and have a family, and then what? You're probably going to have to find another industry.
Not in Oakland.
Nope. There's no team to do.
There's no team.
So I'm
in
saying
Oakland
you're gonna have
anymore.
to switch jobs. You'll have to switch jobs. Like if your life goal was to be in marketing for a baseball team, and now you have 2 kids and you can't move, or sales, legal, whatever, stadium ops especially. It's tough.
I never played there, but everybody that has ever been on the show and talked about playing there, or even guys that I was teammates with, these stadium operations people are some of the people that they're like, oh, that those players are like, man, such great people that are there. I think Doolittle was the most recent ex-player we had on, talking about stadium operations people. Ross Stripling was talking about people that he had seen and would talk to. These are people that have been with his organization, done this job, and now they're going to be out of a job. And it's terrible because they put a lot into it, and they made this experience for players. I'm sure he made the same experience for fans, a great experience.
And
Was it
you're
though?
right.
Was it? Was
What?
it though? Was it though?
The experience?
Yeah, was it though? A great experience.
No, made it those are the people that they brought up. Nobody's ever like, oh man, sweet, the sewer's backing up. Oh man, there's no actual batting cage. So the physical structure of the stadium was brutal, but those connections with those people makes it a good experience.
Yeah, but here you're talking about the fan experience. Was the fan experience really that great though? Listen, I never watched a game there, but
That's a fan.
I played enough.
That's a fan
here.
question.
No, I know, but it's not the people that work there's fault. That's kind of what I don't want people to think that, because they did the best they can. You can't polish a turd,
Right?
So, it's just an awful place to watch a game. Now, it used to be great back before they put in Mount Davis, but yeah, listen, it wasn't a great experience for the fans. That's why fans didn't want to go. If it was that great of an experience, fans would have gone. And the 3,000 fans that showed up, 10,000 fans that were there that waving their flags and all that, they were unbelievable. It was fun to go there and play as a player, even with a few amount of people. But yeah, I wouldn't call it a great experience. They have tiny jumbotrons. The field is a mile away from the stands. It was just old, and they need a new stadium or they needed to move, and they chose option B.
And you're right. It's ATH. That's the abbreviation that you'll see everywhere. But you can call them whatever you want to call them. That's part of the deal. It's the same conversation that we had on Friday. The Rays are most likely staying in St. Petersburg. Things keep getting approved the way they need it to. The question comes up, well, why not the St. Pete or St. Petersburg Rays? And that was a non-starter in negotiations for them, so it did not matter.
Why is it the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim? Listen, if you talk to people that are from Tampa, they will, in the Tampa Bay area, the fact that it's the Tampa Bay Rays is a big thing, okay? It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's the Tampa Bay Lightning. They want to encompass the whole Bay Area, not just a small section of St. Pete, not just a small section of Tampa. They want the whole area because it's a gigantic area.
And everyone can make a case for being an athlete. So there are athletics everywhere. You want to make a case for the A's? Hey, there you go. Sacramento's not getting the name. Why? Because they're a temporary home, and that was part of the negotiation that they put out there. It's not happening. It still makes you wonder, though, if the team actually does go through and get what they need to get done to be in Vegas, why Sacramento did this, why they provided the temporary bailout here for them. I think you're trying to prove that you can hold a team. Do you really think that's going to happen?
It's a big city.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
That they're trying to audition for an expansion team because there's going to be a team out west. Yeah, they're going to do one team east, one team west years from now.
Or the owner of the team is buddies with Fisher, and he understands a little bit more than we understand about what exactly is going on in Vegas, because they're going to break ground for a 2028 stadium in Tampa or in St. Pete, and we have the renderings, we have the plans, they just signed all the papers. Where's Vegas is? So Sacramento's like, maybe there's a chance. So you're saying there's a chance.
Mm-hmm. All right, one more on That's What He Said from Andrew Friedman to Bill Plunkett of the Orange County Register the other day. He said, for us, I don't think our mentality is different than it's been in previous years, in that we feel we have a really good team, and to the extent that we can add really good players, we're going to be aggressive to do so. What appears to be a marginal upgrade is not something we're going to spend a lot of time on. That doesn't mean something is not going to happen along those lines, but that's not where our energy and focus will be. You might say, cookie cutter answer. I actually think there was some meaning to that. They're swinging big, period.
World Series or bust. What have we been saying about the Dodgers the whole year? Right? World Series or bust. That's it. They got to make moves. They signed Shohei. They did all the big moves. They got Teoscar. They got all these people. They brought it. They spent all the money. It's World Series or bust for Dodger fans, and that's it. And if they don't make it and they don't win it, then it's a disappointment. I'm sorry, but that's the way it happens when you have a $500 million payroll.
I liked what Tommy Pham said about Luis Robert Jr. It's the first name that came to mind when we asked him who stands out with work ethic and who to get excited about. I think he's been part of a tough clubhouse in the past too. Not great leadership. That was well documented last year. You put him in certain scenarios, like with a professional team like the Dodgers. I actually brought up Cleveland. I don't think they'll take on the money, but I think Robert would be an amazing fit there. What, you say no because of the money, Kratz? They won't take on the 15 mil and 20 after that. I mean, him next to Jose Ramirez. Oof.
Oh,
that would help. That would help a ton.
I think, as an outsider looking in, Luis Robert Jr. is maybe a product of his environment, in the sense that how can you put him in the situation to hit his 40 home runs a season? Keep him on the field. As it is with any player, you want to keep him on the field. So whoever would be trading for him, if they're going to trade for him, you need a safety net. You need a group around him, somebody that he would look to continue. He's still actually kind of a young player. Like, he's not like he's a 32-year-old guy who's, established his routines. And so when Tommy said that, teams that are listening to this, it can't hurt Luis Robert's chances of being brought into a team like the Orioles, the Phillies, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the teams that are World Series or bust, because his talent is through the roof and can help anybody.
He's 26.
That's so crazy to me. I was going to say 28, and I didn't want to say a number. Like, that's crazy that he's 26. AJ probably knew that because he's always watching him, but that is wild to me.
26 years old.
Listen, I like what Kratz said, though. Is he a product of his environment? I guess he had Jose Abreu, but for the last couple of years, who's he had really to lead him and show him what to do? Tell me, Yohan Moncada, he hasn't been on the field. Eloy Jimenez, he hasn't been on the field enough. Who do they really have there to show him away? They brought in Tommy Pham, and to hear Tommy Pham say, hey, man, I like the way this guy goes about it, that's a good thing, because other than Jose Abreu, who's he really had to show him the way?
You're right. And after a slow start, it's been pretty good. Putting up big numbers if you wipe out the first few weeks once he came back from the injury. I know you can't do that, but he looks good. I mean, in the same case, I was starting to look at numbers more recent. I was plugging in last night, last 30, last 60 for certain players, because same thing. Look at Randy Arozarena. Since the first 6 weeks of the season, He's the same dude, if not even a little bit better. He was so bad for a month and a half. And I know he's streaky anyway, but I'm just looking at certain players that are on the block. Let's take a quick break, and then we are expecting former general manager Dan O'Dowd to join us. We have mock trade scenarios to throw his way. We got to ask him about the Rockies and Skubal and all that.
Do you think that's why? And I've talked about a little bit about this. The Dodgers, the Rays, they have great success in the regular season, and they get to the postseason, and I know the Dodgers won in 2020. Yes, it was the shortened year and the shortened play or the different playoff format. But why they've had so much trouble? Because they're able to do the taxi squad up and down, right, with their pitchers. So, we have an IL, like, this guy's hurt, we'll send him down, or we'll put him on the 10-day IL. In the postseason, they can't do that, and because they don't use their starting pitchers enough, get deep enough into games, then all of a sudden they get caught and their guys are tired. Like we saw with the Rays against the Dodgers in 2020 when they took Snell out, they brought guys in, they scored.
Yeah, I don't know how you could rely on your bullpen that much. I mean, part of the other part of it is what you do to your bullpen. These guys are gassed by the end of the year. So I listen, I think the game works well when you get minimum 5. And in today's game, I'm not opposed to 6 starters if everybody's used to that. I'm not, because that's also going to ameliorate some minds regarding overwork, overusage. But at least you want at least 5 that you like. And then you got to have like this stockpile somewhat in your minor league system because guys are going to get hurt. The thing we did with the Rays, I can't remember the exact year it was, but Alex Cobb was coming on. So we had a 5-man until right after the All-Star break. Then we broke into a 6-man for about 2 or 3 trips around the order. And then came back to 5. And I really liked that a lot. So even if you could get creative with 5 and then drop a 6 in there once in a while, come back to 5. Because early in the season, with so many days off, rainouts, et cetera, the 6th guy can really make it even more difficult and better. So there's different, you got to like plan this out in advance. And you have to have way more than 5 starters that you dig. And you have to have that arsenal in AAA. Absolutely you do. But the more innings you draw out of your starting pitchers, the better your bullpen's going to be. That's an easy equation to decipher. When you put so much emphasis in innings and high leverage moments as they're described on bullpens constantly, these guys are dead when it comes to September and October.
Back on FT with the great Dan O'Dowd, longtime former general manager of the Colorado Rockies, friend of ours. You can watch him on MLB TV. And, of course, make sure you check out the incredible virtual reality software that he put together called Win Reality. We can get to that a little bit later on as well. It is trade deadline season. So, Dan, great to see you, of course, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, great. Let me just jump in real quick, Scotty, and just tell you guys congrats, man. You guys are killing it. I am so happy for each and every one of you. You've got the best thing going that's out there right now. So it's a privilege to be on with you, but I'm really, really happy for all you guys, especially you, Brony.
Thank you. That means a lot. You know what I'm putting into this, and these guys too. You got the OG
exactly,
crew today too. These are the everydayers, Kratz and AJ. So, all right, let's do some business first, shall we? We've been debating Erik Skubal, and he's been the theme of the day. So I wanted to start there. Why does it make sense or not make sense, depending on which way you sway, for the Tigers to trade him when they've been building up for a while, and you would think they have some room to spend money in the offseason?
Okay, well, let's just start from a Tigers perspective, why they might even consider it. I think they got 2 years of control, and then he's a free agent. He's had past health histories. And I think you have to – the one thing when you're running a team, guys, the one thing you have to do is you have to be very honest where you're at in the process. I mean, are you good enough to win? Are you still a few years away? What does your window of opportunity look like? mean, when I look at the Tiger team, I just don't see the positional player impact that supports the impact of what he actually is bringing every fifth day. Saying that, man, they'd have to get so much back for him. And the only club I think that matches for me perfectly for them are the Orioles. And I'm just not sure I see the Orioles trading the prospect capital it would take to bring that kind of talent back, though I think he's just the perfect fit. If you're a Tigers, you have to say, like, we're never going to replace this guy in what we get back. But if you build your team in the aggregate for me from an offensive standpoint, even though they've gone through a rebuilding process, they simply have missed on some things. And I think it'd be easier if Manning was healthy and Mize was healthy, pitching well, and Olsen was healthy. I realize that when they move Skubal from the equation, like, where are they at? But I think if you keep the big picture in mind, I don't think they can be competitive with the position player team they have in place. They just don't have enough aircraft carriers to win a championship.
All right, you said the Orioles don't make that move. You're the GM of the Orioles. Do you make that move? Seeing where the Orioles are, what they have, and their window, do you make that move?
Well, Kratz, it gets back for what the ask is. I mean, if you're sitting in the Tigers chair, I don't know how you make this move, and Holiday is not a part of the deal. So they're going to choke on that, the Orioles standpoint. If it's Kjerstad, if it's Mayo, if it's those kind of players who all fit for the Tigers exceptionally well, absolutely. If it's Holiday, I may choke on that one a little bit, but there's a deal to be made there. And if I'm the Orioles, he's the only pitcher, like even Crochet, who's got like that kind of upside is Skubal. I mean, he just hasn't pitched enough to warrant the huge prospect capital deal because you really don't know what you're going to have in August and September this year. I think he threw like 12 innings last year. He's got pushing 100, over 100 now. I don't know, what his limits are going to be. I mean, Skubal just checks off every box. If you look at Burns and Skubal and Rodriguez going into postseason, I think the Orioles are in a position to win. And then he's controllable beyond this year where Burns isn't. So I think it extends their window of opportunity. So if I'm the Orioles, I'm doing it. I'd like to do it without having to put Holiday in it. If I'm Detroit, I'm probably choking on the fact. I mean, they're eventually going to have to come to grips with the fact that the hobby bet bias signing, they're going to have to eat that one at some point in time and move on. Boy, it'd be a lot easier moving on if that kid's playing shortstop for you, because then you can begin to see a future for that team. If they've got him and they've got Kjerstad in the outfield, maybe Mayo that's running over to first base, because I think the young kid's going to be okay at third base. I think you begin to see a future for them and some aircraft carriers starting to develop for that organization on the field.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned Crochet and the White Sox, Dan. What are they going to do? Do you move if you're Chris Getz? Do you move Crochet? You're obviously going to move Tommy Pham. Do you move Eric Fetty, who has another year of
AJ, I'm moving everybody. I'm
You're
moving.
just starting over. You're blowing it up and starting over.
I think they've already made that decision. I think they're just too far away. I will say, if you dig in on the White Sox system, and I had a chance to do that today, I mean, I love their pitching prospects in their organization. They're way deeper than I realized from a pitching prospect standpoint, but there's a dearth of position players. So I think if you, for an example, AJ, if you took Crochet and moved him to the Orioles, or you moved him to the Dodgers, who I think are going to be more interested in him than any organization because I think they can protect his innings with the depth they have. And if you move Roberts and you went to Seattle, who I think is a great fit, and we can argue what kind of player Roberts is. I think he needs to get a change of scenery. And AJ and Kratz, there are certain players that just to get stale in an environment, and you're never going to see how good they are. I'd love to see him play with something on the line day in and day out. But I'm telling you, Seattle, for me, may have one of the deepest player development systems in the game. And I think they match perfectly with what the White Sox needs are with a young catcher. They have infield depth. They have outfield depth. They just have a lot of players that aren't that far away from me for the White Sox. So if I'm the White Sox, I am rebuilding. I'm moving every piece that's not a part of what I think we're going to be good at. And believe it or not, it's probably 2027 for me. Everything that I'm building is I'm looking at players that can impact us in 2027. I would not bank on the fact that Crochet is going to be there or healthy. And I would not bank on the fact that Roberts is going to play with the type of energy level and focus in an environment that's just not a winning environment.
All right, Dan, you are my spirit animal in an ex-GM, because all the things you're saying is what I've been saying for a while. So I appreciate you saying these things, but now it's time for my trade, and you need to evaluate my trades and say GMs will never do this because why? Jameson Taillon is signed through 2026. The Cubs, clearly what they have is not enough. The last 2 years, they just fall short consistently. If you are the Cubs, do you trade a Jameson Taillon in a market that is starved for starting pitching? He is doing this right now. I get it. He signed to 2026 and you still want to win, but this allows you to be in the Corbin Burns sweepstakes for this offseason.
Yeah, no doubt. I totally, Kratzy, absolutely. The Cubs are in a conundrum because they're kind of boxed in so many positions on the field with Dansby and Horner, who they probably could move Horner, but they probably don't want to. Suzuki, Happ. I just feel like those guys are part of what they do. So I still feel like they're this gap between being a competitive club and being a great club. When you look at Jameson, he's a really good starting pitcher, but he's a contributor. And if you can value him higher than what he is, and I think in this market you might be able to, I think you need to take advantage of that opportunity and bring back more depth, because I think in the aggregate, they're just not good enough to win a championship just yet.
All right, I'll take over. Or Kratz, you got another one?
I got another one. Do the Mariners balk at this because they are so abysmal on the offensive side? And I know Nick Castellanos isn't having a great year, but hear me out with this. They need some type of offense. Nick Castellanos for Tyler Saucedo and who else I have? Austin Voth, two guys that they keep bringing up arms. The Phillies need bullpen arms. That's a righty and a lefty for the Phillies bullpen. But ultimately, that opens up monetary about $20 million a year for them to spend on their roster. And if they can add a outfield bat, but adding to their bullpen. And really, this is the trade that I think the Mariners should make because they need some type of offense, because I don't think they're going to go after a Vlad Guerrero, who I think would be the greatest pickup for them.
I'm a huge Castellanos fan. I think he's a big-time offensive player. I think he plays well in big moments. I'll ask you, the two ex-players on here, the concern I'd have as a GM at the trading deadline is I think chemistry on a club is tethered together in a way that can come untethered very, very quickly. The Phillies have something, and I realize Castellanos' weakness in right field. I realize all the issues that he's had. It's just this Phillies team fits together exceptionally well, both in talent-wise, personality-wise, and chemistry-wise. Man, I'd be really, really cautious as a GM to do anything. Even if I'm looking at all the shortcomings of player X, I would be very concerned about, interrupting, which is so hard to create within our game, is when the sum of the parts are greater than the individual parts with superstar players. And they've got that in Philly. And I'd be very cautious about trading anybody that would interrupt that in the course of the day in and day out grind of what baseball is.
True. Chemistry is important, Dan,
It is, but there's not a lot of GMs. AJ, honestly, I don't think that's valued in this game the way it should be. I think David Dombrowski will get this completely because he just gets it as a GM. But I think we're such a talent-driven evaluation of players that we just miss on guys that provide things that go beyond what you can measure in a statistical equation or an algorithm.
Here's the thing I'll say about that, though. Every team is looking for it, and sometimes you don't think you're going to have it, and then wham, it all hit. Look at your Rockies from back in the day, right? You guys were struggling, and then all of a sudden you win 25 out of 26 or whatever that crazy run was. You went back, So I think, teams are looking for it. They just don't know how to find it because, one, the biggest thing for me is you don't have people that were in the game running the team, so they have no idea. They're just like, oh, it's fantasy baseball. It's like A, B, C, D. I'm going to draft the best team. Right now, there are some teams that have players that aren't very good at either. Certain GMs are better at it. But yes, it also, when you find it, like the Phillies, you stick with it. Now, you say whatever you want about Castellanos' defense, say whatever you want about the way he's hitting, but they have something. I've seen it. You've seen it. Anyone that's been around the Phillies has seen it. They just are like this. It's like every piece fits, and nobody can tell you why. It just does.
Yeah, so to me, I'm just looking to bring in a piece. If it can make me a lot better, like even a Luis Roberts, who I have serious question marks on a lot of those intangibles. But I think if you take a guy like that and you put him into the mix of that Phillies culture, he's going to be the best player he can actually be. I don't know if they line up on that kind of deal. But I think whoever they bring in, to me, just is a complementary piece or potentially an impact piece. But I would not take away anything Kratzy from the mix that's currently there. I'd love to add to their bullpen. I think you're 100% right. I'd love to add another arm to the bullpen. I'd love to add another right-handed bat into the mix in the outfield. I just don't want to subtract anything from the core. They got the it factor, and it's just so hard to create and find within our game.
All right, Jen, I got to ask you about your old team. I mentioned the Rockies. What are they doing?
Yep.
Are they ever going to do something? Like, okay, I know you were the GM there for a long time, and you guys had some success. But what they're doing now is like the same old. They're just like retread. And I know they have Chris Bryant. They're kind of stuck with him because he's hurt. But like, when are they going to just go outside the box and say, all right, we're going to try something completely crazy? Because nothing they've tried really has worked since you were there. Like, they trade Arenado, they bring up this guy, they try this, they do that. Nothing has worked. What can they do there in Colorado to not only make them relevant, but try to get them to win?
Well, I do think, and Scotty just heard me say this line a lot, so it's a cliche, but I'm going to use it again. In a game of baseball, you can avoid reality all you want. You just can't avoid the consequences of avoiding reality. I think at some point in time, the Rockies just have to embrace reality and stop running from it. Let's use Ryan McMahon for an example in this year's trading deadline. I mean, I was a part of drafting Ryan McMahon. I think Ryan McMahon is an incredible human being. He's an above average defensive third baseman. Do you realize this is the first year that he's got an OPS plus above 100 playing in Coors Field? Every other year it's been in the 80s and the 90s. And so, like, in my mind, this is the top of his value. And you've got a built-in replacement for him. You sign Chris Bryant. Because I think the Toglia kid at first base, I know his numbers aren't great, but he's got 16 home runs and Ryan McMahon's got 14. He's 25. Ryan McMahon is 29. I think the kid could figure it out. And so, like, just play Bryant at third and play Toglia at first. He's 25. He may turn into a core player for you. They have to make more decisions where they stop thinking about winning the game that's in front of them that night and start thinking about how do we build something here that's sustainable for the future, number one. I do think they've got some good prospects in their system. I think they just had a hell of a draft. But it doesn't matter. They don't have enough. They got to keep layering on top of layering the players they have. And then, honestly, guys, for me, and looking back at it, I think they need to take an approach of what the Tampa Bay Rays do, is that they can't fall in love with their players because altitude changes the physical composition of players over a period of time. It's just a really hard place to play. They have to trade players when they're at the top of their value, know how popular they are within their marketplace. They need to trade them for guys that are major league level, AAA level, or AA level, because those guys, none of them are far from the big leagues. And then they use their draft strategically after the first round to take younger kids that they can give a long time to develop to that have upside impact ceiling. So if you ask me what I would do if I was running the franchise again, I'm telling you exactly what I would do.
All right, I'm going to my old team now. Luke from the chat brought up a Royals question. The Royals need high leverage strikeout relievers. And the question is, do the Rays and the Royals connect on a trade for Adams or a local guy to Kansas, a Missouri guy in Fairbanks?
Yeah, I do think they need another reliever. Guys, if they don't get more bats in their outfield, their offense is not sustainable. I mean, they just don't get any offensive production out of their outfield really whatsoever. So you can't just – Bobby Witt is, like a superstar. Like, he's 2 aircraft carriers. But to expect him to carry the team over the next 60-plus games, I think it's just too hard in our game, and you guys know that. And so as much as they need – I think they added a strikeout arm in Hunter Harvey. You got to remember now, they traded their number 2 prospect in Caden Wallace, a great-looking young third baseman at the University of Arkansas, and their sandwich selection in this year's draft to get a right-handed setup guy. So it's an organization that is not deep in prospects because they haven't had good drafts over the last few years. In fact, they've been abysmal. And so, like, they just don't have a whole lot to trade from. So if I'm prioritizing what kind of talent I have left to move, because I do think there's an opportunity for them to win this year, and that's great for the whole franchise. Great ownership, really good people in the front office. I think they need to address the offensive part of their game, specifically in the outfield.
Okay, I got about 3 minutes till break. I'm going to try to get 3 quick hitter fan questions in here, Dan. You know I love to bring in the people. So first, a follow-up to what we talked about earlier. Vincent asked, Crochet for Norby and Mayo. Do you think either side says yes or no to that?
I think the White Sox are going to want more, honestly. First of all, I think if you look at the White Sox team of the future, I think Jacob Gonzalez is playing second and Montgomery's playing short. So I think it's a dearth of outfield. Now, again, they may have missed on Torkelson. Mayo's a great fit for him, but instead of Norby, I think Kjerstad has got to be part of that deal. I think he's an impact player, questionable defensive skills, but I think the guy can really hit, and I think they just need to come to grips with the fact that the Benintendi deal is what it is, and Kjerstad should be playing every day in left field for him. So I don't make that deal if I'm the White Sox if I'm not getting a bat like Kjerstad and Mayo in the deal.
Okay, what about for the Pirates? William said Jazz Chisholm to Pittsburgh, and he brought up Tamar Johnson, Jack Sawinski, and a pitching prospect. That seems like a lot if they're taking on the money, too.
Yeah, I don't think Chisholm's a great fit in Pittsburgh. I think Chisholm needs to go to a team like New York. The veteran leaderships on New York is going to get him to focus on the game more than his brand, and I'm just not sure that'll take place in Pittsburgh. And so I don't like Chisholm. I like him as a player. I just like to see him go in an environment where his play is scrutinized, how he goes about playing day in and day out is held to a really high standard, not a younger club that's still developing and learning how to win.
Yeah, be with a guy like Judge. I like that a lot. Dan, you're the best. Yep. Thank you so much. And a shout out to winreality.com, best spot for pitch recognition,
thanks, Scotty.
Body mechanics, swing timing, AI, VR, baseball, softball training, the whole deal. Just check out the website. You'll get a lot more there. But Dan, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me in. Okay, buddy. Good luck with everything, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Be right back, FT. Here we are, a little spillover. So we did the best we could with Dan, got to a lot of great questions. I have a few more that we didn't have time for. I'll go to the easier one first. I promised I would answer a question from Brian about any trade buzz from the Diamondbacks. It feels like no one's talking about them. I feel like we're talking about them a lot. And that's another team that I'm pretty high on, guys. I mean, even if not all three come back feeling great, you're going to get at least one or two starters back that can pitch playoff games and pitch down the stretch for you, right? You've got Jordan Montgomery missing for a while, Eduardo Rodriguez missing for a while. Merrill Kelly's been out for a while. He was freaking awesome in the playoffs last year. Gallen pitched really well for them. I watched some of his start the other day. I like the team. I do. I think they're going to add. What did I do wrong?
Gallen pitched good the other day.
Did you watch
again? I mean, he pitched against Cubs. He went 5 innings and gave up no runs, but he also walked 6, I think. And he was lucky he was playing the Cubs who can't hit.
Looked okay to me. Hold on, let me go back to it.
6 walks is good for you?
No, that's pretty uncharacteristic. Maybe I'm talking about.
I think they're short this year.
Hold on.
And I said that last year. Obviously, I didn't see them making the run they made.
The problem is Eduardo Rodriguez hasn't pitched all year. They signed him. He was their big free agent. Everyone was like, man, they got Eduardo Rodriguez. Wow. Then they go out and get Jordan Montgomery. Wow, but Eduardo Rodriguez hasn't pitched all year. So, great. Oh, we're counting on him. How?
First of all, yes, it was that start. You're right. He did walk a lot of dudes, but he only gave up 3 hits. And Eduardo Rodriguez was a terrible signing. It was a terrible signing. I've never – I don't know. There's always been something off there. I don't know him well enough, but there's always something going on. It's not always his fault. I just didn't feel comfortable about the signing. I know there's a lot of teams that have been like rubbed the wrong way from other decisions he's made in the past. So that one so far not working out well. He hasn't pitched for them.
What about the fact he wouldn't go to the Dodgers? Now I know he had some family.
That was part of it.
A family problem, but like
it wasn't that though.
Dodgers. He didn't go to the Dodgers last year. He had a chance to win, and he didn't go. That should be. Listen, I mean, we all make our own decisions, but if you're a competitive team and you're thinking like, man, we need a guy that's really going to want to win. Like you talk to Tommy Pham, you're like, that dude wants to win. If I'm a GM, and again, this is not if he had family issues, I get it from Eduardo Rodriguez. But if Scott, you're saying it wasn't that, he just didn't want to go to LA, then why would you go to Arizona?
No, it was a money thing.
Money.
It's a money thing, and it was getting blamed differently. He handled it super poorly. So we'll get some more questions in a few. BetMGM locks. Pretty good day yesterday for the boys. Pittsburgh with a tight win. Rowdy Tellez is playing ball too, guys. I don't know what it is. I mean, we have him back on. I mean, obviously he's hitting better, but he's making some sick plays at first. I'm watching a lot of Pirates lately. He saved them at one point, and then they got some late offense. Todd Father picks up a dub with Lindor's 2-homer game, and then Kratz, you were close.
It was close. Yeah, I mean, it was close to being 5 too. They had a runner on second with 1 out after what's his name stole second base. But yeah, push. It's okay. Push.
Fine. All right. So you want to try and get back on the winning side of things? What do you got today?
I am going to go plus 1.5 bases from the hot Juan Soto. He actually walks more than he strikes out against lefties, and I just don't see Quintana and this bullpen wanting to throw around Juan Soto, as hot as he is, to get to Aaron Judge, who is also equally hot. So it will be interesting to see this game, and I'm going with Juan Soto plus 130 for over 1.5 bases.
There you go. And we do have a Pap pick, so let's do that next. The Papnosticator's up.
What's up, everybody in Foul Territory Nation? The people of FT, it's your boy Parlay Pap coming to you hot, baby. After the All-Star break, we're going to get this thing rolling again. First half was amazing. We won money. And guess what? We're going to double up that money on the second half. I got a parlay for you today. 5-star lock, no doubt. Here we go. Texas and your boys White Sox. You know who I'm talking about. AJ, your boys White Sox. I'm not betting on the White Sox, but I kind of sort of am because I'm going to take no run in the first in the White Sox and the Rangers game. And I'm also going to parlay that with the Baltimore Orioles money line. So we're going to get it today. Lock it in.
There you go, Pap. Good luck to you. AJ?
I mean, listen, I'm happy when Pap loses because he always picks against my squad. So I'm happy that whenever Pap goes down in flames, it makes my day. All right, I'm going crazy. I'm going wild. You know why? Because I'm only on one day this week, so let's try to make some money. I'm going parlay, Garrett Crochet over 6.5, Soriano over 5.5, and Bloss over 4.5 Ks, and that is $100 plus 685. I'm gonna be rich.
Wow. Okay, so mine plays off of part of your parlay, and I had a question for you on my pick. So I'm taking the over, and this is a 5-star lock for me. And I don't think I've thrown that out the whole year.
No.
Minus 135 to win a hundo. White Sox and Rangers over 7 runs. That is a really, really low number. That's when you have an elite pitching matchup. John Gray has not pitched well in most of his last 5-6 starts I'm looking at. Some earned run numbers, 9, 8, 3, 3. Not great, okay? For Crochet, he's been great, but they've put him out there for 4 innings against Miami. Then he had a 2-inning outing. I don't know if they're going to be a little bit careful because he's probably going to be pitching his last innings for the White Sox. Maybe they only go a few and say, look, good, he's healthy. The rest of the innings are yours. And then that goes to the bullpen for the White Sox. So you add all of that up, and I feel like we're going to get to 10 runs tonight. So that's my lock.
My sources have informed me that Crochet tonight is not on the limit. We'll see how wrong I am, but that's why I took him over.
Okay.
Because the Rangers strike out a lot. That's the other thing. The Rangers strike out quite a bit.
I agree. He could get that done in 3 innings. I mean, I don't doubt that either, but we'll see what happens.
Fastballs, they
Keep an eye
strike
on
out
that
a
one.
lot too.
Yes.
Yeah, he throws hard.
That's been the problem.
He throws a lot of
yeah.
fastballs.
He throws a
All right.
speedball.
He does. All right, DC, this one's for you. Big news in the area. BetMGM live all over the district. So whatever action you choose, whatever sport you want to bet on, you can get that now anywhere on the BetMGM mobile app or at betmgm.com. Okay, go check that out right now. If you've got the app, you'll be like, woo, I have a lot more freedom now all over the area. So gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER, and we will be right back on FT.
From my view, the ball was just right in the baseline. So I'm happy I was watching it and not Neto a part of it, because I don't I mean, I couldn't really tell who got in the way of who or what had happened. But I mean, I'm just happy we got 2 outs out of it, and yeah, it was a weird play, and it's pretty ironic, obviously, that it happened a week or so ago in Chicago, whenever it was.
So should it be changed? Should we change in this rule based on seeing how it happened within 3-4 days, or do you think the rule is correct?
It's a tough one because we got 2 outs from it, so I don't want to change it.
That's okay. I like bias.
Yeah, like 1 out instead of 2.
Take.
Wait, was AJ's point yesterday? Help me
Strike
here.
2 for you.
AJ's point was it's infield fly. Just call it dead and call the 1 out, and don't call the 2nd out. Right? That was his point.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? If that happens
It
on
makes
the
sense
reverse
to
to
me.
you tomorrow? Okay.
It makes sense to me. I'm gonna say yes until a run scores from it, but I agree with it.
I know it's early, but 65 plate appearances. He's hitting 419 with a 446 on base, 742 slugging. And he got cut by one of the worst teams in baseball. So you want to hype up your new teammate a little bit?
Yeah, give me the name, because I think I have the guy in my head.
Kevin Pillar?
Yes, that's exactly what I had in my head. KP is one of the best dudes to walk into that clubhouse with. I mean, he's a better person than he is that stat line you just read off, and he makes everyone in that room better. And luckily, I got to not only cross paths with him, but play with him for a consistent stretch, and I'm so happy he's doing as well as he is, because he deserves every bit of it.
Hey, we got a lot to cover. We got a few minutes here. We'll do a little bonus time on the FT YouTube channel as well. But congrats, Jackie Bradley Jr. signing a minor league contract with the New York Mets, coming from the Long Island Ducks. And that's independent league baseball. He's in a 28-game hitting streak. During the streak, it was almost 500 with the batting average. Last in the majors last year for the Royals, 43 games, wasn't hitting much. And then some people were saying that he was retired. He came on our show and said, I'm not retired. So good for him. Good for him. I like that. Dude can pick
over
it.
500 is big deal. I don't care if it's in independent ball. And indie ball has improved a ton because they cut a bunch of dudes from the minor leagues.
Mm-hmm. Kratz hats, what do you have for us?
Some days I forget what hat I have on, but we talked a lot about Royals today, so it was nice that I got the old Omaha Storm Chasers.
It's nice. Don't they have that movie coming out about, what is it, Twisters or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Twister.
Yep.
Twister 2.
Yep.
Basically,
It's called Twister.
2. Yeah.
So
Twisters.
yes, it's about Twisters.
Yes. Well, it probably
So-
didn't say 2 because the last one was so long ago that most people don't even remember. I don't know.
Sneaky
I don't
good
know how
movie.
that worked. The old one?
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it. I saw it back in the day in theaters. So anyway, we'll take a ton of your questions the next few days, trade questions. I am like a hawk on every platform that we have. So at Foul Territory TV on Twitter, at Foul Territory Show, Instagram, on YouTube. We're staying for a few minutes for the YouTube crowd because I know there's a ton of Q&A going on, including a super chat. So we're going to get to those for the next 3 minutes. And then if you would like to see a little prospect action, Baseball America Hot Sheet's going to talk about the top prospects in the sport that could get moved. So make sure you check that out as well. Big guests joining us the rest of the week. Also, we have Billy Epler joining us on Friday. First time we'll have him on the show as well. So look forward to all of that. And we will see everyone watching on Bally Sports TV and on the app on Wednesday. Here we go. 3 minutes for some rapid fire questions. Also, Tim Kirkjian and Chad Jennings joining the show tomorrow to talk about the trade deadline. So that'll be fun. First, the super chat. And it takes a step aside from the trade questions. Frank, just like the other day with another question, he said, do heartbreaking losses linger or is momentum the next day's starting pitcher?
I don't think they linger that much. As a professional baseball player, you learn how to move on pretty quickly. And if you can't, you don't last very long. So you got to move on. I mean, do they linger? Yeah, your starting pitcher is always great. But, I mean, just because you lost the day before, you're ready. You come back the next day ready to go. So I think they linger more for fans than they do players.
They don't linger in the clubhouse, I don't think. They linger in my mind forever. Like, you'll never forget the heartbreaking losses. I'm sure – I remember heartbreaking losses from Little League and college. Like, I don't think you forget about them, but you have to be able to move on. And it doesn't linger and affect the next day's game, I don't think.
Yeah, I remember losing a summer camp basketball game that was epic. And still the whole
You're a
thing.
loser.
You're a loser.
That night I was. There's more to the story where I wasn't totally a loser. We don't have time for that part. 2 more, okay? Dave, let's just do this one. Why isn't anyone talking about Skeens being traded? The Pirates never spend. They can get a boatload of talent for him now as highest value before he potentially gets hurt. Nah, Dave.
That was
Too
That was
soon.
my other question. Other question to
No.
Dan. When will a team do that? I know they're not going to, but when will a team do that and say, pushing my chips all in because we're believing in the fact that we're going to get a lot for them?
In 2-3 years, teams won't. I mean, the value right now, teams won't be able to fork up the value that is Skeens for that many years. You can't assume that he's going down, so it's just too soon. I have way
And
more
prospects
questions
aren't worth
saved
that
up.
much.
What?
That's why. Prospects aren't worth that much. That's why teams don't do it. That's the reality of it. If prospects were worth that much, they would do it.
On Hot Sheet, which is coming up next, we're going to show you some of the top prospects that have been traded over the past decade or so. A lot of those prospects turned into nothing. Just saying. There's a few good names. Most of the names are like, huh? Anderson Espinosa? Here's the show, 3 o'clock Eastern time on Tuesday. Sorry about it. He was a big deal and didn't turn into anything. So it's JJ Cooper and all of his friends from VA joining us. Special trade deadline edition of Hot Sheet. So if you're watching on YouTube, just stay there. We'll flip right to it. And any of the questions I didn't get to, I wrote a few down. We'll get to them tomorrow. AJ, have fun. We'll see you on Monday.
All right. Subscribe too if you're wherever you're watching.
Subscribe, and everyone else, FT fam. We'll see you Wednesday.